All right. What's up, boys? What's up? I wanted to start the stream with a VOD review of Mad vs. Koi. Go in depth. I actually think that Mad was playing pretty well in general. Like this week, I was pretty impressed. The players that I was most impressed with, like, okay, so if I were to rate the players by like performance, like the new players, Elyoya, we all know Elyoya is good as fuck. No one ever denied that Elyoya is good as fuck, right? Out of the new players, I think Alvaro and Merwin played really well, but they were expected to kind of play well. Like these guys had a lot of hype coming in. And Alvaro has just been like one of the best supports in EUS and solo queue for a while, and he played well in competitive, had good results in EU Masters as well. So everyone thinks this guy is a beast. Merwin is kind of known as like a cheese player. Like the things that I've heard about him, like I saw him play a little bit because he played with Jack Spectra on Heretics Academy and like Iberian Cup. I watched a little bit of that, and the thing that struck me about him was like his weird picks. He seems like he's BB light. That's kind of how I was viewing him. Was he's the guy that will play kind of everything top lane. He's willing to play obviously Akali in this game, but he also was known for playing Ahri top. LeBlanc is being banned versus team, not because they think Frescowy is so good at it. It's because Frescowy can play it, and Merwin can also play it, so it has like value as a flex for them. And he also just plays like a bunch of carries. He plays tanks, pretty much plays everything. So I think that this guy is really solid. I think Alvaro is super solid. The person that I was the two people that I was most worried about were Frescowy and Supa. I think Frescowy probably was the worst performer over the course of the games for Matt. I think they all performed pretty decently, but I think that he definitely had some like pretty sus games. The Gragas game I thought was not great. I thought he just got outclassed pretty hard by Niski. And Supa, I think, actually performed better than expected. Like I thought this guy would struggle. I think that there was points where he struggled, but for the most part, he was solid. So yeah, let's see what happened. Okay, so let's talk about draft here. So draft is pretty interesting. Now, the order of the bans was actually like a Nocturne ban first. But the Nocturne ban ends up having a ton of value here because if you're willing to play things like Ashe support, then you could end up in lanes with like, for example, if you're going Ashe first pick, you could end up playing Ashe Varus. You could end up playing Ashe Caitlyn. You could end up playing Ashe with Renata support, and you're playing just a lot of things that are double ranged that is really susceptible to Nocturne. I assume that K-Corp was able to deduce that Lucian would most likely be banned. Upset played it in the first two games, and it's always been one of Upset's like best champions. If you remember the Fnatic days with like Lucian, Nami being one of their core picks, it's just something that Upset plays better than pretty much everyone else in Europe. I don't know who else would be considered like a top tier Lucian in EU. I know people say Hansama. I think Upset is better when it comes to playing like Lucian, Nami. AD bans actually make a lot of sense here. Okay, so first ban Nocturne, then you also go for a Rumble ban. I mean, Rumble is good into most of Cabo's champion pool. If you think that Cabo is like kind of like a weak side tank player, that's what he's been. Like he played Gragas, Malphite, then he played a Jax game. It didn't look good. Even the carry picks that he plays a little bit of Olaf. He plays Renekton. I know that. Just he doesn't really play anything that's like a counter to Rumble. Rumble has very few counters, but a couple that people are willing to play. Udyr top. That's something that people like playing into Rumble. Another thing that you can do into Rumble now is you can actually just draft a pure tank because of the fact that Rumble doesn't have the ability to get through some of the new tank items. Rukern, the Kanaic Rukern, that item seems really good into Rumble. It's very hard for him to like break through the shield consistently. Even if he does, you just back off, and it's just very hard to get through those types of items. Yeah, and then you also just have better items in general. You have like MR Sunfire. So before, when you were playing a tank into a Rumble, you pretty much couldn't go Sunfire. Now you have the ability to actually go one of the Sunfire items. So I think Rumble just has less value into tanks than it used to. The other options into Rumble would be like Aurelia. So some people play Aurelia with Exhaust. It's like a solo queue counter, but pro players actually do play Aurelia with Exhaust in solo queue against Rumble. Bin was playing it a lot, which was speculated that he was going to play it at Worlds if he played into Rumble, but it never ended up happening. There are a few things you can play into Rumble, but a lot of people, instead of having to like either learn Udyr top or play Aurelia with Exhaust and then have to play a competitive game without teleport or play a tank matchup, which is kind of bad early. A lot of people would rather just ban the Rumble. Kalista ban. So they're banning out aggressive ADs for Upset. So they're protecting Supa by banning out aggressive ADs right here. Lucian, Kalista, probably two of the most aggressive AD carries in the game. Upset is not known as a Draven player. He's played it in competitive, but he's not known as a huge Draven player. So you don't really have to fear his Draven the same way you have to fear Hans' Draven or something like that. And then the last ban here is the Varus ban. So the Varus ban is a pretty good ban in general because Varus is just such a flexible first pick. When there's a lot of bans like this, there's not that many Giga OPs up B1, then you can normally just pick Varus, and Varus will almost never be terrible for the game. Like you'll be able to either go poke build into some comps if they have like things that you can't hit. If they have a lot of tanks, you can go on hit, you can go blade Ginsus. There's just so many builds you can do on Varus that actually allow the champion to thrive. Also, the item changes I think were kind of good for Varus anyway. When you think about these lethality changes, people always think assassins, but Varus is one of the best lethality users already. So yeah, champion is just pretty fucking strong right now. All right, so this lines up into the first pick Ashe. I actually really like first pick Ashe. When there's a lot of AD bans, has two purposes. Number one, it soft counters enchanter supports. You don't really want to play something like Lulu into Ashe. And then also it's a flex AD carry pick. So when there's a lot of AD carry bans, it allows you to pick the Ashe early, then not pick your AD support 2-3. So you can go Ashe early, then you don't have to pick AD or support. You don't have to pair it with anything 2-3, because worst case comes to worst, if they ban out other AD carries and they like are really committing that Ashe is a support pick, which a lot of times it is, you just flex it to AD carry and it's completely viable and fine AD carry on the patch. Philios answer is fine, and then they go Nico. So I thought the Nico was interesting. I think the Nico pick can be strong, but personally I would rather play with Azir most of the time. I mean, to be honest, I just don't think Nico players in Europe are very good. I don't think they've ever been very good when you compare it to like the top tier Nico players around the world. So you had like Faker, who was really good at it. You had Knight, who was really good at it at points. They just are able to do way more with the champion than you see in EU. Even like Caps had a horrible Nico game this weekend. There's just a lot of like really in moments you see from Nico players in the West. And it's one of those things that I think is just harder for teams to play out in Western League, because you have to understand engage angles, engage timings. You know, if we go through the history of LEC, we go through the history of LCS, what are the comps that are most successful? It's always like tank top, something like control mage, Orianna, something like that, mid, Orianna, Azir, Corki, who functions as a control mage, mid, plus like hyperscaling AD carry. That's normally the recipe for how you win in the West. It doesn't mean that that's all you have to draft. It's just that is what works the best over time. Azir picked here. I mean, I think 1, 2, 3 is really good for KC here. I think that these three make a lot of sense. So you have Azir versus Nico. You got Sokken's Azir. It's one of his best champions. You have Xin Zhao, considered probably the strongest jungler on the entire patch. And then you're playing Xin Zhao into like a ranged AD carry that auto attack. It's very hard for Aphelios to actually deal with the Xin Zhao. Xin Zhao can buy a lot of space into this. And then you have the Ashe flex. So I was actually really impressed with the first three from K-Corp. I think it's really winning. I was not that happy with the Sejuani pick. I think the Sejuani pick was weird here. I wonder why Elyoya went for Sejuani in this type of situation. A lot of times when you have a Nico mid, you'll look for AD carry junglers. So you'll look for things like Lee Sin with Nico, or another option that Elyoya is really good at is Bel'Veth, because Nico is pretty good at like level 6 and Azir is weak until you have Nashor's Tooth generally. What you can do is you can draft Bel'Veth, counter pick top, and then you should have like a timing to play for Void Grubs and get an early form for Elyoya, because you have stronger top, stronger mid, and you give yourself a carry threat. I think in general, I would like to see Elyoya on more carry picks with this team than things like Sejuani. Also, Sejuani doesn't pair with anything that they have right here, and it's very hard to get a winning melee support on 4 or melee top on 4. You're probably going to have to draft something that's a lot safer. I mean, you could go something like Renekton here on 4. That maybe is an option, but it's still not super good, I think. What makes Xin so strong this patch? Just Titanic Hydra, and they just changed jungle. They changed jungle so that your champion doesn't kill the camps anymore. Your pet kills the camps. And one of Zin's biggest weaknesses was clearing slow. But now every jungler kind of clears at similar speeds. So it's a huge buff to Xin. Okay, Heimer ban. So the Heimer ban is because Aphelios generally wants to pair with range supports. Like, you don't really like playing Aphelios Nautilus. Like, these types of lanes, they're playable, but they're not great. Most of the times you want to play Aphelios Renata, Aphelios Lulu, Aphelios Milio, these types of lanes that are ranged, and the enchanters can buff the Aphelios, and Aphelios with steroids is super OP. So the Heimer ban is to counteract the Ashe going AD carry and the Heimer going support, and then you just get super abused in lane because there's not much that you could pick as a support to counteract that. Like, maybe you could go something like Aphelios Senna to make the lane more playable, but then you kind of have a duo that doesn't make much sense together. Aphelios and Senna doesn't really have much teeth, so it's better to just remove the problem and ban out the Heimer. So the Milio ban just shows that they want to go Renata. I think the only reason you'd go Milio ban is if you want to go Renata or maybe Rakan. Also, I think Milio is pretty good into the champions they already have. So not only would Milio be good in the lane for K-Corp, it would also be good into Nico plus Sejuani later on. So I think the Milio ban also makes sense here. Gwen ban. So when I see a Gwen ban, I don't understand it, because if you're playing Jax, you should be willing to play into the Gwen matchup, I think. And then also the other picks that I thought would be good for them would be like Renekton, for example, which is another pick that is good into Gwen, or should be good into Gwen. So you have the Renata come out on 4. Now, this is a pretty risky pick for Mad Lions. I didn't really like the Renata pick, because Renata gets countered by Ashe support, and K-Corp has the ability to flex Ashe. So you kind of played into the Ashe flex hand. It makes it a really easy flex from Ashe to go AD to support and play into Renata. What I thought the answer was going to be was, I thought that they were going to pick any type of like strong poke AD carry here. So I guess the only one is really Caitlyn. And I thought they were going to go Renekton. I think Renekton actually has a ton of value in this type of game. I think Renekton is actually really good here, because they want to go a melee top laner. The things that counter Renekton that you're afraid of are like Gnar is a counter later on. But that would make their comp super weird. If they had Gnar, Sejuani, Nico topside, it doesn't really have like much of an identity. Generally, Sejuani wants to be played with some type of carry top laner. Like, you can play it with Renekton, you can play it with Jax, you can play it with Akali, you can play it with like Camille if it's a good angle, Fiora if it's a good angle. You can play it with Aatrox even. Like, you just are normally looking for some type of melee champion that's relatively strong, that can benefit from Sejuani's E, and they can chain it together. So I thought Renekton would be the pick. Like, Caitlyn Ashe makes a lot of sense here, but Renekton I think would be really good for K-Corp, just to soft counter the picks that Merwin wants to play here. Instead, they go Jax. Jax was strange to me. Jax was really strange, because it doesn't really feel like you need more damage in this comp. When you look at this team comp right here, you have Azir, Ashe, you have Azir, Caitlyn, Xin Zhao. Those are your carries. Then you have like an engage support, essentially, like a support that functions as an engage support later on, that also does more damage than general supports. You'd think that you would slot in something that is like consistent. Like, either you'd go a tank, or you'd go something that, you know, has the ability to neutralize top lane. So I was thinking maybe Aatrox here, maybe like Renekton was my favorite. Maybe you go Aatrox here, but obviously if you go Aatrox, then they can go Renekton Sejuani, which is like a little bit hard if you're not a top tier Aatrox player. I think it's actually not that bad. I think the new items benefited Aatrox a bit. That being said, I think the Jax just adds so much volatility to the game that doesn't need to be here. I think that you can make this game way less volatile and rely on the winning bot lane that you already have. You already drafted winning bot lane, and you have the strongest early jungler in the game, right? Like, 3v3 bot should be mega free for K-Corp this game. Xin, Caitlyn, Ashe into Renata, Affilio, Sejuani. Like, this has no damage compared to what K-Corp has. And then the Akali pick comes in on 5. So I think the Akali pick kind of like gives Mad Lions like an angle to win. Because I feel like before the Akali pick, there's a very high chance that they just end up getting like stalled out and beaten down. I mean, the reason you wouldn't want to go a pure tank top is if you go something like Ornn, then if Merwin, I don't know if Merwin can play like a lot of the just standard top laner. Like, how good is this Aatrox, for example? That's what you're afraid of. You go Ornn, and then he goes Aatrox, and then it's like a really good lane for Aatrox if the Aatrox player is good. And then top lane like has, you know, the possibility to get murdered 2v2. Like, your team has Ornn, Xin Zhao early, and then 2v2 the enemy team has Jax Aatrox, or sorry, Sejuani Aatrox. So it's just like you have the ability to fight around it. Aatrox can just win those fights like almost 2v1. So I don't like this lane position from K-Corp. I don't like the way that they played this level 1. If you watch the best people at playing these lanes, like, okay, so who's the best range duo in the world? Probably Gumayushi Keria. If you watch Guma and Keria play level 1, if they have Hail of Blades Ashe and a Caitlyn, you do not get to like walk up and win these trades. I don't like the Targamas being up here. I would like the positions to be reversed. I'd like Targamas playing around this bush and Upset playing up here, because then, like, you know, you have the Ashe who's actually going to be doing more damage than the Caitlyn level 1 with Hail of Blades. You have the Ashe walk up, auto 3 times with Hail of Blades, back off into the bush. Like, it's crazy that Alvaro can actually walk up and land an E here and win the fight. Like, how are they losing the poke trade when you have Hail of Blades? It doesn't make any sense. It's like your Ashe should be punishing this guy. If he wants to walk up with shield, you hit him with a W, 3 autos with Hail of Blades, boom. And then they don't have a ward for this bush. I think that this is another thing. Your Xin Zhao is pathing to you. You have a ward here. I think you ward this bush. I think you ward the bush and you play for level 1. Also, if you look at like how the lane's being played, like Upset's doing the return damage. Like Targamas hasn't autoed yet with Hail Blades. Okay, here. 1, 2. Doesn't get the third one off. 3, okay. Like Upset walked forward and got the damage onto Supa. Like I feel like this is where Targamas should just be like almost 1v2ing the lane. Supa said in eBuy stream that as soon as they enter the lane, he knew that Casey Ball was bad. Yeah, I mean I think that's a completely good, that's a completely rational thing for Supa to say, because Mad Lions Koi, they lose really hard level 1. And if you look at this, like this is like a pretty acceptable level 1 situation. Like there's so many things that can happen here. And because of the fact that Mad Lions is playing the game as if K-Corp's going to play perfectly, right? Like you don't assume that your enemies are going to make mistakes like this level 1. So Elyoya has to path in order to prevent things from happening that can happen if the enemy team plays well. What does that mean? Level 1, K-Corp can dominate bot lane. They can do whatever they want with the wave, right? Because they win so hard level 1, if Targamas walks up and he's in this bush and he just opens, they ward this bush, he opens, he triple autos Alvaro's half HP, he's pressing W, he's like 1v2ing them. What could happen is Xin can just start red side and then invade. He can just start red side and then they can play for either dive or they can stack a huge wave and invade. So because that's a possibility, Elyoya plays to counteract this. So he goes red into his bot side. He goes red into blue into Grump, so that on the timing where Xin would invade him and the wave should crash from K-Corp, his camps won't be there and he won't be sitting there with like a blue and a Grump up trying to fight over them while his bot lane is stuck under turret. Like this is like so crazy that they're able to play like this. Clearing his blue. He goes and he wards this. So you see how like watch Elyoya. This is something that you can do when you play jungle, by the way. Because of how you can leash the camps, this is really good to do. I think if you play enough, you'll just start doing this naturally. But look at how, so you can kite your camp all the way to here, right? While Elyoya is doing his camp, he also is microing towards this bush so he can drop a ward just in case Xin goes for some like crazy level 2 cheese, which is possible because on Sejuani, you're really susceptible to early invades before you hit level 3. It's the reason why, like, when Graves and Nidalee are meta, these types of champs, no one will play Sejuani because these champs will just invade you level 2 with, like, red buff, and you'll just get... Xin is another champion where there are cheese options. Most people won't do it, but there is, like, an outside chance that the Xin goes E-start, Q at level 2, and then just invades you and just beats the shit out of you because you don't have your Q at level 2 on Sejuani. So Cabo actually plays this lane... I don't like the way Cabo plays this lane. I'm not sure what happened. Okay, so I'm not sure if this is correct, right? I could be wrong about how this lane functions, but generally you don't want a 2-wave crash when you're playing Jax in general. The only times where you want a 2-wave crash in competitive is if you're threatened to be ganked. Why do you not want a 2-wave crash? Well, if you 2-wave crash, you actually don't have money to buy anything specific. Like, you 2-wave crash, you have like 200 gold. 250 gold. So you can't even base and buy like a longsword. You can't do anything that changes the lane. If you 3-wave crash, you're able to actually base, cheater recall, buy a longsword, and the enemy won't be able to push it out in time, which means that you don't have to invest your TP back to lane. So I think in the mistake that a lot of people make, and I made this mistake too when I was playing top lane a lot. When I started playing against like the really good like X-Pro top laners, like when I was playing against Lorelo Viper, what they'll do is when they play against a champion that has the early push, so for example, like Udyr is a champion that has early push, Jax pretty much wins almost every single lane level 1. Obviously, there's like range matchups and fringe ones that they lose, but for all intents and purposes, just Jax wins every single lane level 1. So what people will try to do is they'll bait you into getting a good trade on them, but you're pushing the wave while you do it. So they'll stand in their wave and they'll let you press E, right? And if you press E and you start autoing them and you get a trade where you win by like 200, 300 HP, but you simultaneously push the minions, then it will force a 2-wave crash. You will not actually be able to push the wave slow enough to crash it on the 3rd wave. On the 2nd wave, the wave will just crash because you will have done too much damage to the wave in order to like stall it out long enough for the 3rd wave to hit. So it looks like that's what Merwin ended up doing here. Like he walked in and he took some HP trade, but this wave crashes, right? Like there's no way Cabo can now push this wave slow enough that it gets here with this 3rd wave. Like you see the one on turret here. This is the 3rd wave. He doesn't have to walk up here and take this trade. I think this is like, that's probably misplay from Merwin here. There's no reason for him to ever walk up here, right? Like he's already done the work. I think here you just don't walk up and you take this trade. This is a misplay. But overall, like he's already put himself in a positive position. because he'll eventually win at 6. And the way that Jax wants to win this lane is by like having an item advantage. Like he wants to control the wave, right? 3-wave crash it, base, buy a longsword. Then he can actually fight the Akali on the bounce back because Akali is down an item. So even though it's a losing matchup, Akali has Ignite. He can actually fight Akali off the bounce back, potentially force TP, and then he can stack a wave again, base again, and he can just keep on playing this game where he bases and he's up items. You like base, for example, your first time you buy a longsword. Base again after like the next time where you slow push all the waves, boom, buy a no magic mantle. And then you just have more stats than the other guy. So even though he can like out trade you or the trade patterns can be positive for Akali, the Jax will be able to out sustain. Or will be able to just like have like just a winning condition. So this is really good for Merwin. You see this lane? See how he didn't get the 3-wave crash here? Look at the position of the lane. Merwin can easily CS the wave, and Jax can never harass him anymore. Like all these like ranged minions that are getting hit by the cannon, Merwin can just walk up. He has like Shroud. He can just Q them. Cabo can't trade onto Merwin or he's going to take turret aggro. So this is such a good situation for him. Like he's got the lane in like such a good spot. And it's very hard to dive him. Like there's times where you can play for like 2-wave crash into like really early dive if you're playing certain champions that are really good at it. But into Akali, like Akali doesn't have to worry about this. So you see how Merwin can't be harassed. And it's not even like that easy for Jax to crash. I mean, Jax can crash the wave, but it's just not that easy. And if he crashes it, because the wave is so thin, he will have to TP back instead of having to walk back. Like, this isn't even an advantage bot side. Think about this, bro. We're playing Ashe Kate versus Aphelios Renata, and they crash their wave. They don't even crash like a really big wave. They're actually down in CS, assuming that Supa gets all this CS, which he can get pretty freely. They're actually down in CS with a much stronger early game 2v2. Oyoya is walking behind. So the reason why Oyoya is doing this is to kind of break the Kate lane. This is something that that a lot of people try to do into Caitlyn. Like when you play Caitlyn Lux, any of these types of lanes, what they want to do is they want to like stack waves, go to your turret, and then they want to like chip at your turret, get plates, or just abuse you under the turret when you try to CS. And what you want to do generally into like Kate Lux, Kate Ashe is just try to remove summoners, because if they have no summoners, they can't walk up to your turret and play as aggressively. So Oyoya actually just goes straight bot here. Now this is actually seen by Bo because Bo is doing the camp in the bush. So this was full information. And the thing that's weird here is that normally if you play the lane as aggressively as you should with K-Corp, you'll always have a level advantage, right? You'll be level 3 before them. But because they like crash this wave in such a like pathetic way, kind of, they're only level 2 when the enemy is level 3. So they actually don't even have the advantage to fight right now. So when Bo walks in, like, Bo is much stronger than Sejuani. And this is a mistake by Bo, because Bo should read the situation. Like, I feel like these types of things, people start playing way too much off like what should happen instead of just looking at the lane. Like in competitive, you'll think, oh, I have the winning bot side, right? So I'm going to path towards bot, and then I want to fight around bot because my 2v2 is winning. But in reality, they're not winning right now. They're actually just losing. So Bo walking in here is not good based on the conditions of the game. This only works in theory. This doesn't work in practice if your bot lane is literally just down a level. Shouldn't Bo jump on Sedge? No. I mean, he's not even done with his red. If he goes on Sedge here, he's fighting without his red. He should just full clear. What Bo should do here is he should just start his Krugs, because Oyoya's wasting time. They're not contesting a wave. His bot lane's not losing anything right now. Bo should just do his Krugs, because bot lane is pushing in. They can't be dove, at least not right now. Like, even if there was a dive possibility, the dive wouldn't happen until the wave is at the turret, right? And you see the way that the wave is pushing here. Like when they pan it, this wave is not crashing, right? That wave is not crashing. It's the wave after this that's crashing, right? So you see where the wave is going to be. You can see like on red side where the wave is, right? So this wave is going to be like right here. So what Bo should do is he should just do his Krugs, and then he'll be level 4, and they won't be able to dive. And what he should also know is that by Elyoya being here, Elyoya is wasting time. Elyoya has no camps on this side of the map. Even if Xin Zhao ends up losing Crab, it's not the end of the world. Worst comes to worst, he does Krugs, he sits in this bush, they catch the wave, okay, he bases, he goes topside. So I think here the timing should be like they can actually kill. I think they just need to be a little bit slower. Like here when Elyoya does this, like he wants to full combo, but what he should wait for Alvaro to be a little bit closer so that they can actually chain this, and then they could probably kill Bo here. But it ends up being like Alvaro flash plus target for Bo's flash plus Targamas heal. So it's good, still good for Mad, but they might have had a kill opportunity here. But like you see where the wave is. This is why it's not diveable. So this is just an angle to full clear. And then he actually loses this because he smited red. So this is kind of grief by Elyoya, I would say. Because his teammate wants to crash the wave. Like, even though he has pressure, like, it's kind of not great. I mean, it's fine, I guess. The problem here is that, like, okay, so here's the problem. Elyoya can only do this if the bot conditions are better. Right now, the situation is one, right? Because Bo was forced to show, Bo lost his flash, they lost heal, and the wave is crashed for Aphelios. So what does Aphelios want to do? Aphelios has no mana right now. Aphelios just wants to crash the wave and base, and then he's like won the early game, right? Like Supa's essentially won the lane at this point. But Elyoya wants to deny Bo from getting level 4 and invade these Krugs. I just don't like this play because it kind of Supa. Like Supa has already got through the hard part of the lane, but he had to use his mana in order to do what he wanted to do. And what did he want to do? He wants to crash the wave. So he probably like had like blue purple on this timing. This is probably what he had around his weapon switch. He had emptied his red green, and he probably just blue purple, just like AoE down the wave, gets a base, and then he should be able to walk back to lane before Upset's able to push it again. So like right here, Supa just wants to base. Like this is not even a winning fight for Matt anymore. If they end up in an all-in right now, they'll actually lose. Xin has red. They just don't have an ignite. They don't have damage. Aphelios doesn't have damage. If they end up in a fight right now, they'll just die. So this is actually pretty bad because like you see how Supa's basing right now. He wants to base, and then Alvaro's getting trained down, and Alvaro ends up dying for the Krug invade. It's just they need to be more communicative about like what the objective of the situation is. And I see this a lot in general in LEC this week. Just people over extending the winning play. Like in competitive, a lot of times when you've won a play, the best thing you can do is win the play, base, and then make the next play with the advantage that you got from the first play, right? Okay, we made this play, we got the wave crash. So even though they're playing Ashe Caitlyn, we actually were able to get a positive base for our bot lane. Now we leverage that into like maybe a support move for Grubs, or you just like leverage that into like you having items and making K-Corp take a bad base. And now the Caitlyn is actually down CS because you're able to hold the wave. There's things you can do that are better for getting a consistent advantage than trying to overforce. Like the value of these Krugs is not there. And because they went for these Krugs, Alvaro ends up dying, Supa's base ends up being canceled, and they just lose a lot of time, right? Like they get a little bit of experience from the Krugs, but they lose a lot of time and they lose first blood. Now Upset gets first blood. And the most important part about this is that Supa actually like tried to stick around. Obviously, he's just trying to be like a homie. Like he sees his teammate dying, so he wants to like see if there's an angle to help. But Supa should just be completing his recall here. Like without mana, he can't actually help the situation. If Alvaro dies, if they die for this invade, like it is what it is. Like he should just keep on recalling. Like here he cancels his recall, but what can he do? He has no mana. Like he's gonna try to like throw. He's like, oh, maybe I can like slow them or something. But now he cancels his recall. And this allows K-Corp to get out of the bad situation. Now Upset and Targamas are going to be able to push out the wave and crash it in base. Bo gets double crab here. So now Bo is actually pretty far ahead in the game. This is pretty criminal by Socken. Like, I don't know why he's walking in here. I mean, technically, Renata can open on both sides because Renata just died. But Renata walking top out of base is pretty crazy. Like, he doesn't need to walk to this bush. Like, he should be playing on the top side of his lane here. Has to flash, or for Scowy will flash auto. Okay, Murrin hits level 6. And if you see, like, because of the fact that Cabo crashed second wave, if you look at how the conditions of his lane are, he actually never got to get a base in. Both top laners have not based because there was not a good time that Cabo could actually crash this wave in a way that was significant enough that he would have time to base and walk back to lane. His wave just was here forever, and Murrin was able to perma farm it. And this is why, like, this matchup, I'm sure if you watch some of the best Jax players in the world, if you watch like Bin play this matchup or you watch Zeus play this matchup, you'll see them actually have advantages at this point because they're going to actually abuse that level 1 advantage and snowball that into like more items and more items and more items, and eventually they will just start winning the war of attrition because they'll just be ahead of Null Magic Mantle, they'll be ahead of Longsword, all this type of stuff. Okay, Merktread's Rush. I'm fine with Merktread's Rush here for Azir. Pretty good into Nico. It's also good into enemy jungle. Like, Merktreads are really good into Sejuani. If they have AP mid plus Sejuani, Merktread's Rush, I'm almost never gonna hate it. Also, there's not like a huge spike for Azir. Normally Azir is just rushing Nashor's Tooth these days. And that's your big spike. Like, you buying Lost Chapter here or something will not actually change your lane much at all. So now there's actually bot lane advantage in terms of items because Upset ended up getting that first blood. So the situation that should have been winning for Mad is now losing. Okay, and Bo's full clearing down again. Decided not to go for grubs there, which I think is a fine decision. He just wants to end up being bot. He wants to be bot around the same timer as they would potentially crash. Now, this is the mistake from Bo. Bo should not be walking into River right now just because his mid has prio. The reason why he's walking here is because he feels safe because Azir was able to push the way first and Nico has to go through like the safe way. But it's pretty grief for him to do this. I feel like the same thing should happen on this clear, bro. So many times in competitive, man, the best play is just to clear your camps. This is something that a lot of people can't accept. Like, when you're playing a professional game, people, like, as a jungler, you feel like you want to be doing stuff, right? The worst type of feeling is you, like, full clear twice, and then, like, the other guy is getting ganks off, and it's like, damn, all I'm doing is farming, and the other guy is, like, getting his team ahead. You should still play the game properly. If your team dies, it's not always on you as a jungler. There's timings where you need to hit, but then there's also times where you just need to farm. And I think twice, Bo has been trying to make a play where he should just be doing his Krugs. Yeah, and Bo has no flash, so he walks through here and he's just dead. Big misplay from Bo. I mean, there's also no reason he needs to be bot. Like, the reason he's trying to walk through here is because he's like, oh, like, there's no flash on Renata. Maybe I can go for a gank when the lane is here. But this wave is not big enough. This wave is not big enough where they're like frozen on and like they're gonna have to walk up. If they just wait, the wave will push back to them. Always felt like golems are so unworth your time. No, Krugs are really good, bro. You should always be doing those. Also, Cabo here, just mechanical misplay. Cabo rushes Merktreads. And then he flashes nothing. If you watch how he plays this, he flashes nothing. So here, like, the only way you're winning it is if you flash the R2 after you get hit by the E. You either have to flash the E or flash the R2, but he actually flashes nothing and dies. Also, I don't really like the Merktread's Rush if you're also going Hex Drinker. Like, he ends up going Hex Drinker this game. I don't know his gold value when he based, but like rushing Hex Drinker would be a much better buy than Merktread's for him. What camp does he have to clear though? Krugs. He can just clear the Krugs. Also, this is never how you want to use your E on Jax. Like, he's using E to try to get like a positive trade, but E also reduces damage. You reduces AoE damage, and Kali's spells, like, besides for the E, are AoE, so he makes himself really killable here. And then also, what he needs to do is, if a Kali R1's like this, he needs to just ult to get the MR. Like, he needs to time it so when a Kali R1's, he ults. Because if you see when he ends up ulting, like, he ends up ulting here when he's 150 health. So the only thing that he ignores with magic resist is the only thing that the magic resist actually factors into here is the Akali R2, which is already putting him in lethal. So just misplay from Cabo. And the Spanish fans go wild. So here, Supa greeds. Well, it's not even that Super greeds. Honestly, I think Renata should probably stay. Like, I think Renata bases before they crash the wave. They think that they're just fine, but they just have to make sure that this wave crashes. They can't let Targamas hold it. They just thought that Supa would be okay because he has flash. 2, 3, W. All right. Bo gets a kill. It's pretty big. Aoyaya gets grubs for it. It's fine. And now Cabo's just getting shit on. Merwin is just dicking him down. Need to know why K-Corp just ignore every objective ever. I mean, this is fine, bro. Like, this is actually good, by the way. Grubs are not that valuable until you get, like, so there's a difference between 3 grubs, 4 grubs, 5 grubs, and 6 grubs, right? The main is between 4, 5, and 6. If you're able to, like, get 2 grubs and they only get 4, their grub advantage is not that high. They don't have, like, the voidlings that are hitting the turret. If you kill bot and you get a summoner and you get your bot ahead and they get grubs, it's not worth it because they're not going to be able to use the grubs in this game. The only team that should be, or the only lane that could be able to potentially use the grubs at that point in the game is the Akali. And this should just be K-Corp's Drake. Should not be I mean, they have Nico and Sakin is not strong yet. Well, actually, let me see the base timer. Actually, maybe it shouldn't be K-Corp's Drake. What did we end up doing here with the kill, though? Did we overstay for plates? So we killed Supa, and then we got a plate, and then we stayed in lane. I mean, okay, so they're giving Drake here. So K-Corp is giving Drake because Upset is about to have item spike. This is okay. This could be K-Corp's Drake. K-Corp could probably just fight for this Drake if they wanted to, like if Upset just based earlier, but they don't want to fight for Drake because Upset has Stormrazor. So they want to force Supa to hit this Drake. They give up Drake number 1, which is a Cloud. It's not an important Drake. And then Caitlyn comes back with Stormrazor, and it should be very hard for Mad Lions to lane afterwards. This is okay. I think that this is fine. A lot of people get like really triggered when you give up objectives, but this is not a game where you get outscaled, by the way. Like, you should not be worried about the scaling of this game on K-Corp. Like, you could easily outscale them in this game as well. Obviously, Affilio scales, but like Akali is not going to like scale super, super hard unless she's super far ahead, which she ends up getting this game. Nico is not a scaling mid. Sejuani is not scary scaling wise. Like, I think you're okay to give up 1 Drake and play for a big bot advantage that you can get. And now this is where it should be extremely hard for Mad Lions to play the game, because they're laning without any items on Aphelios to complete its Stormrazor on Caitlyn. So this is good from Bo playing around the lane. Go get vision together. And as you can see, they can just walk in. They can kick them out here. And then they can just start chunking them. Bo's doing crab right now. There's an opportunity on this wave. Targamas can go and hit this. This is good. And now they've established controller on bot. And you see how like Sejuani just has to live bot. Now this is really sad from Targamas. Like, this guy walking up, Supa walking up like this is grief, in my opinion. Like, he gets slowed. He should just lose his cleanse here. He should lose his cleanse here, and he should get chunked. Aoyaya is still sitting around here. This is fine. Like, just because of this advantage, you're getting stuff done on the Xin. The Xin is counter jungling camps. The Xin is getting ahead. You're getting a gold lead because of the advantage. They still have to stay in lane. That's why you see Supa desperately trying to push it. But the thing is, like, Supa would not be able to push it if they even held Ash Arrow. Like, missing this Ash Arrow is so big, actually. Missing this Ash Arrow is huge. Like, look at how Mad Lions is able to play. And now they're completely out of the situation. Like, Supa, generally what should happen is you should just be losing plates. Slowly losing plates, and you should have to eventually drop a wave and take a bad base. But he never has to take a bad base because of the fact that the arrow is missed and his jungler is hovering bot, and they can move over to grubs. Okay. So they give the grubs here, mainly because topside is so far behind. Arrow at least makes him dodge here. It's not the end of the world. Boom, boom. Flash in 1 second. Wow. I wonder how quick. Did they actually have the flash timer? Because Supa has flash, and like, this is pretty unlucky for Supa. He had flash in like 0.1 seconds when Bo goes for this. They definitely didn't have the timer this well. Boom. Titanic Hydra proc. W. Huge. Big jungle lead now for Bo. It's not that Elyoya's played bad or anything. Elyoya's played perfectly fine, but this is like he just had to sit bot. And this is where they open up a big lead for K-Corp. Now Upset's just murdering this turret. Bo has Hex Trigger here. Good use of his E. This is crazy to me that Merwin gets this kill, by the way. He gets the R2 off, it looks like. It looks like he pressed R2 right here and he just got the damage off. There's no way that's a Q. At least he got it. Actually, is that Storm Surge proc? I mean, the Storm Surge is actually bugged here. It's not showing. Maybe it's Storm Surge proc. Let me see. Does he get the R2? Does he move at all? No, he actually doesn't. It's just Storm. Dude, Storm Surge is so broken, actually. Holy f***. It's just a Storm Surge proc. That's so sick. That's so sickening. But yeah, the overlay is bugged. It's just not showing it going on cooldown. Still, I mean, it's a good defensive play here. Bo is griefing by doing this, though. He has a shutdown, I believe, as well. They're giving another Drake. Why do they have to give this Drake? It's because Bo is dead? No, they didn't actually. I mean, Bo is dead, but they didn't actually have to give Drake because of that. Do they even need to give this Drake? This is why they give the Drake. Bro, we gotta stop using these Ash arrows. He's missed all three so far. It's the Ash arrow missing again. Damn, bro, they miss Ash arrow and then they have to give this Drake. They could have fought it without it. So they get bot side control to try to just push this extra wave. They push one more wave from Socken. They give Rift Herald for it as well. And then Ash bases for Warhammer and then opens on top. And he has a refresh on his wards. I mean, they should just be mid. Also, okay, let's see the Ash arrow here. It's just such a worthless Ash arrow, man. Like, he Ash arrows, the Ash arrow timing, it's like Bo's already backing off. He has no spells. He already E'd, right? Yeah, he E's for the crab. So he WE's the crab. Even though he has a challenge on Sejuani, he's not going to E. I mean, what is this Ash arrow, actually? Like, just this one hitting, it's just so worthless. I mean, AD carry doesn't even cleanse it because he's like, what the fuck is this arrow? He sees Caitlyn mid. He sees a Zero on mid too. He sees two people on mid and Targamesh just walks up. I mean, Bo is trying to save the play. Jax comes in. E's. Pretty good E. Okay, this is spaced. This is fine. Socken misplays here really hard. Socken can go hard here, by the way. Does he have his E? He should have his E. No flash. Look, Merwin, no flash, no ult, because obviously he has Ignite. No flash, no flash. Bro, Bo is actually prime Thanos here. If Socken just goes for a shuffle here with his flash, if he just shuffles this, bro, this is game winning. It just... This is something that you see more in LPL and even LCK, and you see less in EU, is like when a fight's already losing, they just feel like, oh, it's a 3v5, I shouldn't go in. Dude, if you go in here, you are fucking going to kill everyone. If he went for this, bro, they could kill everyone. Like, Upset's going over the wall. Bo has flat. I mean, Bo is so strong at this point. Bo and Upset are both really strong at this point. This is a missed opportunity. Big missed opportunity. But it's also just like, it's poorly played by Targamesh, for sure, right? Like, Targamesh, this isn't even a fight. The thing that I hate about this is that it's not even like a coordinated fight that K-Corp is going for. It is literally just a, like, this guy is getting caught, let's help our homie type thing. I mean, the other option is you just go mid. You just accept that they've made this play, and you just have Caitlyn hit mid. There's no one defending mid. Like, I don't really like Mad Lions being here. I think Mad Lions griefed by doing this. Like, when Mad Lions goes for this Rift Herald, they get cut off and they can't walk back mid, so no one can cover mid turret. They should lose mid tier 1 for this. They get Herald, but they lose mid tier 1. They actually misplayed pretty hard here. I mean, maybe Nico has to TP and defend it, but then like that's still winning, right? Because then Azir goes side lane and Azir has TP advantage on Nico, and Nico TP is really valuable because that's when you make a play. XTP was trying, but it's just like this is a reactive play that's not being set up at all. Like they're not recognizing, number one, the situation that they're in, the positive situation they're in, and they're also misplaying mechanically in the fight. But a lot of times these things are correlated. When you're reacting to a play and you're not the ones that made the plan and you're not going to fight, you play it a lot worse than when you have the idea of like, oh, we're going to fight this. And like, we have an idea of how the fight is going to go, who we want to engage on. Like, they're not prepared for this. This is just like all reaction. It's something like this, right? It's like, okay, like, yeah, we can go mid. Like they're pinging on the way mid, right? They're pinging on the way mid. Okay, we can go mid. Oh, Akali's on me. Akali's on me. Akali's on me. Akali's inting. Can we kill Akali? Can we kill Akali? Can we TP on this? Like these are the comms in this type of fight. Can we TP on this? Okay, I'm TPing. All right. Okay, they use Sejuani ult. They use Renata ult. Can we still fight? Like this is what they're talking about. It's not like it's like a, oh shit, we're fighting type of moment instead of like, oh, this is what we're trying to do. Mid turret before third Drake is in 2 minutes. They get another crash here. It was 2 mid turrets now. Sakin's hitting tier 2 the top though, so it's like really good if Sakin gets it. Okay, they try to engage onto Bo. Holy, the sundered sky, bro. It's this guy, autos this guy, autos that guy. Got 3 procs of sundered sky there, and they're just fighting a 3v5. This is actually a good fight for K Corp. You'll take this every time. If Nico is using flash and you've already like lost objectives, the reason why this fight is so good for K Corp is like the tempo afterwards, because after this fight they traded 1 for 1. For Fresskowy is dead. Sakin just has more time to hit top, and they're just losing out on top, and they use Nico flash. Now you have third Drake fight. This is well played from Sakin. I think Merwin misplays. He E's back. Wait, where does he E? Oh, he gets his E canceled. Yeah, he's just dead. Even if he R's, he's just dead. He didn't want to like get turret aggro by R'ing because he already E'd. He panic E's here and he gets his E canceled by the Azir ult. So because of that, he actually can't just R through Sakin and E out. And then R2. This is actually pretty big. Sakin getting this kill. And he's really strong at this point in the game. Like if you look at the gold to mid lane. Sakin's up 2k gold because he got the tier 2 top and he got all the waves when Fresskowy was having to make this play mid. Also Fresskowy TP'd from bot to top to like answer the last play where Sakin got an advantage from that, and Sakin got this kill, which was a shutdown plus tier 2 gold. So I mean, he got a huge advantage here. He's in a really good position to carry this game. And now it's just free Drake. It's free Drake for K Corp because the Akali is dead for 30. Sakin just TPs here. I don't know, bro. I think if you TP, you just TP to bot wave. I don't like the TP though, really. Like, what does he gain from this TP? He does nothing. He just TP'd and then he just walks top. Like, this is just a TP because you're like doing Drake and you just feel like you want to like be there. But I mean, the enemy team is giving and you have proper vision, so it's just a wasted TP. And now Sakin can't go bot lane because he has no TP. So Cabo has to go bot, where at this point I think Azir wants to match Akali in this situation. I think Azir will actually just win versus Akali at these items. Like if you have Banshees, Nashers, Merc Treads, plus you have like your turret and everything, I think you actually just can poke the Akali out. I mean, you have to play kind of well. You can't just like walk into the lane and let him full fucking combo you. Like then you could maybe die, but in general, you should be stronger than the Akali. This is a pretty risky Baron start. I mean, you can feel that Mad Lions is a little pressured in this game. You can feel like this Baron start is actually not good for them. Like they just feel like they're pressured. Also, the fucking Baron just pulled them. Look at the Baron. The Baron just fucking grabbed them all. Let me see this again. I mean, Sakin has flash here. He doesn't flash. He just gets Pulled in and dies. Ah, it's so bad, man. Oh, they're so strong here. Like, what should happen here, by the way? So what should happen here is when you start Baron like this, the problem is if you can't finish it and you're forced off the Baron here, the situation is already won. Because Akali is not able to actually clear this wave in front of Caitlyn, right? Caitlyn can walk on the wave. Ashe can walk on the wave. They have to walk. Mad Lions has to walk all the way back around, and you just gain free mid-tier 1. You don't need to go in. No. I don't want Sakin to go in here. I don't want him to go in. They've already made a mistake by hitting Baron. They've hit Baron. Now Caitlyn goes mid. Akali cannot clear the wave because they have the free entrance. Everyone just walks mid, and they're just forced to go around. You get free mid-tier 1. Here, he gets his Banshees procced. He has flash. Doesn't flash. Alvaro Q flash into ult. Nico goes as well. I mean, Bo is so strong here, man. Like, look at the damage from Bo. Look at the damage that Bo gets off. He ulti. I mean, the ult, like, dude, the Sakin gets his ult off at the end. He, like, panic ults, and it actually saves for Scowy, by the way. Because what should happen here is when this happens, like, when this trade happens, Bo is knocking 2 people back into his team. But then it gets canceled. And now Merwin's here. Bo ends up kiting it. He ends up living. Where did Jax go? Jax just left. Jax just pieced out. I mean, Jax marked Merwin pretty well here. Bad flash from Targamas. But I mean, it's just like they're just like fighting a situation where once again they're responding and they're not capitalizing on how hard the enemy team is just griefed. Enemy team went to Baron for no reason, started hitting Baron. Now they have to walk away from the Baron. We get a free mid-tier turret, and then we also just get wards. And then we get complete control of the area as well. Like, they just lost free mid-tier 1 turret for no reason, but we ended up being behind. Now what happens? Because Merwin died, and because Drake is spawning, they just try to start Baron themselves. Okay, Sakin has flash this time. Okay, they TP'd. We have no mid-tier 1, so it's actually like we're not losing anything here. Okay, they Caitlyn ult. Now they're going on to Merwin. Same time, Bo is just like fighting in his jungle 1v2. Akali is balanced. Look at that, bro. How is this balanced, bro? How is Storm Surge balanced? He just Q'd, auto, Q, R2, auto. Through a Hex Drinker, bro. Through Hex Drinker, he killed him. That is so ill, actually. Fight is still winnable. Fight is still winnable. Here, bro, Sakin, we have to flash this, man. Elyoya is selling out so hard for this, by the way. If Sakin just flashes up and starts hitting Elyoya has no flash and just Q'd. Right? So there's all of this, right? And then Renata ults. And Sakin, like, doesn't realize that, like, he still has flash and everything, too. He doesn't realize that Targamas is hitting him, and Targamas just kills him. Oh, it's so crazy. Why is Sakin going for the wave there? He's just afraid of getting killed. I mean, Sakin was super strong, and he just butchered 2 fights in a row. Like, the Azir's 2k gold up. Like, you look at an Azir versus this type of team, you should be doing so much damage. And now the game is, like, pretty much over. And now we're just late for this play as well. Kabashard is just worthless here. Does the triple auto. Look at how squishy he is. He's full MR. Yeah, at this point, the game's just over. I mean, Mad played the fights better, for sure, than K-Corp. But I think they also just never got punished for things that they misplayed. Like, them hitting Baron, like, this is when I always said ERL macro last year. This is the type of stuff that reminds me of, like, ERL macro. If you play against top team, I mean, honestly, it's just LEC macro at this point, too. Most of the LEC teams do this. If you start these objectives at bad times, you should be getting giga punished. And Cabo's so weak. but they didn't even like do things to make the fight good for them. Like when your Jax is this much weaker than the Akali, what you should be aiming to do is to bring the Akali to side lane. Like you want somebody to be forced to match the Jax, because the value of Jax being in the fight plus Nico being in the fight, or Jax being in the fight plus Akali being in the fight, is worse for K-Corp than if the fight is just 4v4. Like you don't want your Jax to be in these fights. Another Ashe arrow that just misses. What happens here? It's actually well played. This is well played by Socken. But they're just so far behind now. This is crazy from Bo, by the way. Like hitting, Wing here, and then like A clicking this so that you knock up the Akali mid R2. Like that is nuts, by the way. Like when I was watching live, I'm like, this is so hard to do. Look at the damage onto Cabo. Cabo literally has 0 armor. Look at Cabo. Because it's lethality Aphelios as well. He maxed the lethality portion of Aphelios, and he has a collector. Blinding Jax is dog shit too. I don't think Blinding Jax is dog shit. I think Jax is actually a good enough champion that you could play it into any champion in the game top lane if you're good enough at Jax. Like the thing, like there's not many counters to Jax. Like even matchups that are supposed to be really hard, like Kennen matchup, or like people like are afraid of a Akali matchup. All these matchups have winnable conditions because Jax is so strong level 1. You just have to play Jax really well. And if you watch top tier Jax players, they are not afraid of blinding it into anyone. As Akali's out of control. This is just desperation Baron. Complete desperation Baron. Alvaro walks in kind of early, but it doesn't matter. Supa is just way too strong here. Aphelios like got way out of control because of all these random fights. Yeah, GG. All right, that's the game. I mean, I think overall, like, they just got outclassed. Like, the lanes did not go close to as well as they should have. And then the fights, they pretty much got outplayed in every fight. I think the draft is the only thing that made it kind of playable, to be honest. No, I mean, like, no one is playing clean league right now. Like Mad Lions looks like they're top 4, but, like, the level right now could... I mean, you could easily have teams rise up and fall. Like, no one is playing on an insane level currently. If you're watching these games, man, there's so many big mistakes. Like these Baron situations should be situations that people are able to read later on in the season. It's just because they haven't played that much competitive recently, they haven't been on stage, that they're kind of like in the bloodlust of like, they're inting, let's fight them. When teams get better, you start a Baron like this, you lose your mid-tier 1. And that will happen even in LEC.